You acquire the skills, you put in the hours, and you build the career. Yet for many, the outcome is rarely freedom. For the highly capable professional, success often yields a compounding trap of endless responsibilities. The standard industry advice is to optimize. Buy a new planner, download a new app, compress your schedule. But applying efficiency algorithms to a structurally flawed foundation only accelerates its collapse. The flaw lies in the baseline assumption. You are attempting to manage a biological, living organism as if it were a linear machine. Treating complex human architecture like a simple engine that just requires manual tuning creates a complexity trap. When you treat a living system like a machine, chronic overwhelm is the only mathematical certainty. The root cause of this exhaustion is a deep mismatch in identity. Your internal narrative claims you are a powerful, strategic leader, but your daily reality is that of an overworked caregiver, constantly managing the emotional and practical fallout of everyone around you. You cannot solve a crisis of identity and internal architecture with a calendar app. Trying to do so guarantees a permanent, systemic burnout. To dismantle this trap, we have to audit your life through the lens of systems engineering. Look at this network model. The theory of constraints dictates that in any complex system, the overall throughput is strictly governed by its single limiting factor. When we apply this to your personal bandwidth, the constraint is rarely a lack of intellect or work ethic. The system fails because the central node itself becomes overwhelmed. You have become the bottleneck. This bottleneck is rarely accidental. It is driven by a psychological need to be the fixer. When your sense of self-worth is tethered to how useful you are to others, you unconsciously pull every problem toward yourself to prove your value. In daily operations, this means you step in to fix coworkers' errors, mediate family conflicts, and absorb practical friction. You voluntarily position yourself as the single point of failure because your ego requires being indispensable. This exacts a severe dual operational cost. By constantly shielding people from the results of their choices, you starve them of the feedback necessary for growth. Simultaneously, you rapidly deplete your own finite bandwidth. A commanding general cannot sacrifice the strategic position of an entire army simply to rescue one soldier from a poor tactical choice. If we zoom in from the external network and examine the internal mechanics of this central node, the structural deficit becomes clear. The viable system model maps out the necessary architecture of any successful living organization. It requires dedicated internal structures, a communication network, a radar for market research, and a policy brain to govern decisions. Highly successful high achievers possess a massive capacity for operations. You excel at executing the actual work. But look at the governance structure. There is a complete absence of a policy brain. You have no predefined, clearly articulated rules about what you will and will not accept. Without established written boundaries, you are forced to adjudicate every minor request in real time. You burn highly volatile, immediate emotional energy to manage situations that should have been deflected by an automated protocol. A functional policy brain provides the ability to say a kind but firm no. It shifts your defense from an emotional reaction to a codified system, protecting your position without requiring constant deliberation. Running massive operational drives with zero policy boundaries means you are treating yourself like an infinite machine. Eventual biological and emotional failure is the only output. This internal chaos does not stay contained within the individual. It visibly corrupts the external environment. Because a business is essentially the externalized decision-making of its leader, the organizational chart eventually deforms to match the leader's internal patterns. In many small to mid-size enterprises, the founder sits in every minor meeting and approves every low-level decision. This isn't just a management style, it's a structural reflection of the founder's inability to step away. The resulting dysfunction has a hidden utility. The company is unconsciously engineered to be dependent so that the founder can continue to play the role of the necessary hero. Attempting to patch a company's financial or operational leaks without dismantling the owner's underlying need to be the savior is futile. It only facilitates a faster, vastly more expensive cycle of burnout. An organization can never achieve true operational independence as long as its core architecture is required to validate the ego of its leader. Minor adjustments and calendar tweaks will fail. Transitioning out of this trap requires an aggressive clearing of your current operational structures. You must make the intentional choice to overwrite your old reactive identity. This is a structural transformation where you stop reacting to the story and start writing the rules. The first protocol is to learn to stop. You must practice the intentional act of observing minor system failures and letting them resolve themselves without your intervention. You have to get comfortable with not being the fixer. The second is shifting your self-worth away from your work output. You must protect your time for rest and relaxation, recognizing that your value is based on more than just what you produce for others. Third, you must externalize your rules. Physically write down your standards for how you expect to be treated and what you will accept. This shifts you from a state of emotional reactivity to a state of planned strategic order. It is time to officially resign from your self-appointed position as the emergency support system for everyone around you. You can only dictate the ending of your own story by abdicating the role of the rescuer and stepping into the architecture of a sovereign.